Let's start off what the odds makers say is the worst team in said division, and that would be the Houston Texans, 7-1 long shots to win the South. We know he got a new head coach, potentially a rookie quarterback. We don't know if he's going to start right away. But, Matt, when you look at what DeMeco Ryans has, I think if you looked at GMs and said, man, this might be the weakest 53-man roster that you're inheriting, and you got to flip that thing over, that feels like a tall task.
Yeah, of course it is. And he's got a long-term rebuilding plan here, and that's why the betting public is going to be looking to fade the Texans and the Cardinals almost every week. But you might be able to find some value as the season goes on, especially in the Texans, because like Wes said, they're going to play hard for DeMeco Ryans. They're not going to wave the white flag. This is a team I think that's going to get better as the season goes on. You might as well just pencil the Texans in for that 10 a.m. West Coast kickoff almost every week. By the way, again, the way the NFL has balanced or imbalanced the schedules again this year, I can't stand it. With all you've got so many cases of 9 games at 1 p.m. Eastern and 3 games in the 4 o'clock slot, or 10 games and 3 games. The Texans are almost always going to be in that 1 p.m. Eastern time spot, 10 a.m. out here on the West Coast. Do you want to see this team in prime time?
Man.
Probably not. But I think with C.J. Stroud at quarterback and Will Anderson, as the number 2 and number 3 picks, there is some intrigue to this Texans team. I would still have to lean under the win total of 6.5. It's shaded -130 at DraftKings. I will say the Texans have a stretch in the schedule in late November, early December, where they have 3 consecutive home games against the Cardinals, the Jaguars, and the Broncos. And if you look at the schedule overall, it's not that difficult, which you would expect for a last-place team in the weakest division, arguably, in the NFL. But, again, a lot of times sharp bettors want to play the low win totals over and the high win totals under. I don't want to play this one over because I think it's going to be tough for the Texans to get to 7.
That's what surprises me, Wes, is I look at that, a 3-win team a year ago, right? One tie in the schedule. And yet the odds makers have got them at 6.5. That's quite the leap.
Well, mathematically, the strength of schedule by the league, by the wins losses last year is third easiest, 43.2%. And I agree with Matt's assessment. They're going to be better, I think, as the year goes on. But keep in mind, first-year head coach and DeMeco Ryans. Now, last year, first-year head coaches went 4-1 in week 1. But if you go the previous 4 seasons, 4-15-1 in week 1. So, could be some growing pains for this team. I like some of the pieces they added, especially defensively. So these might be like under games, game by game, if you're looking at the Texans. But I think as they get later on in the year, you're going to see them. And we've even saw it the last couple of years when they beat the Chargers a couple of years ago, knocked them out of the playoffs. And then, they pull a couple upsets late in the season because they haven't thrown in the towel.
Dave, I want to say this. AFC South, all 4 teams in this division rank in the bottom 10 in the strength of schedule chart based on last year's records. AFC South and NFC South play each other. Those 2 divisions combined for a record of 52, 82, and 2. Ooh. The only team in those 2 divisions over 500 last season, the Jaguars at 9-8. It's definitely ugly. The worst 2 divisions in football.
On paper, these are the weak ones so far, at least in the AFC.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.